Right, so David Lammy, Labour's shadow Foreign Secretary, he's had an absolute mare of an interview with Victoria Derbyshire on Sunday morning, where whilst being questioned on the Palestine Israel situation and the question of whether or not he supports the order to move the 1.1 million people being forced to move south by Israeli forces, he refused to answer. And the basis for his fudging of the question was probably the most careerist nonsense I've ever heard a politician come out with, because his reason to not answer was, it would appear, that he felt it would harm his chances of becoming Foreign Secretary if Labour formed the next government. Right, so David Lammy, shadow Foreign Secretary and a man who apparently is prepared to put his career ahead of doing the right thing in a humanitarian crisis. The most important issue to Lammy, not being a concern for war crimes or the deaths of civilians, notably kids, 764 of them killed by Israel in Gaza in the last 7 days, but no. These issues apparently pale into insignificance compared to Lammy's lofty career ambitions. Victoria Derbyshire asking him a very simple question in relation to the order from Israel for Gazan civilians in the north to move south. She asked him, do you support the order to move them or not? Just yes or no. You'd think from Lammy's reaction she'd asked him to drink bleach. He came back with, it's not a yes or no, Victoria. I'm hoping one day to be Foreign Secretary and a chief diplomat, so it's not a yes or no. This is a war situation. War is ugly. Very, very sadly, people die. We have rules, and those rules mean that you must minimise death. Now you know, and I know, because Netanyahu has said that there will be an invasion shortly. Against that backdrop, of course it's right that civilians must not be in harm's way. An order has been issued. I'm glad that order has been extended. But the point I want to get across is that it's hugely important that we minimise the loss of human life. God help us if this asshole ever does become Foreign Secretary with an attitude like that. Because the answer is yes! Get the people out of harm's way. If Lammy wanted to caveat that, then saying give sufficient time until all civilians are out would be a fair and meaningful thing to say. It would certainly minimise deaths, hopefully, not just minimise them, but eliminate them completely. 1.1 million people to move. So far, Hamas have stated 400,000 have moved. More time they certainly need. But the answer quite obviously can't be no to Derbyshire's question, Dave, because that would mean you didn't care who lived or who died. You can further caveat it by having a swipe at Israel for saying the enforced movement of the people of North Gaza out of their homes and moving them south is a war crime itself, because you simply are not allowed to make such demands. But not Dave! No! Dave fears he might not keep the shadow Foreign Secretary gig if he calls Israel out on anything. Job first, preventing war second, it appears. Why not demand a ceasefire as the International Centre of Justice for Palestinians, the ICJP, are demanding? Shouldn't that be your job as Foreign Secretary? Or is Israel the exception? Lamy is, of course, a member of Labour Friends of Israel and has enjoyed substantial donations from the Israel lobby. I believe Keir Starmer's chief leadership backer, Trevor Chin, of the Jewish Leadership Council, has apparently given Lamy somewhere in the region of £30,000 in donations. So, is it the job of the money, Dave? Can't be the money, surely. You're raking it in with your LBC show as well, aren't you, Dave? Highest second job-earning MP in the Labour Party, aren't you, Dave? Does anything drive you apart from what's in it for you, Dave? War is ugly, he said. People die, he said, in the most emotionless way he possibly could, throwing it at Derbyshire as if she doesn't grasp the concept. But it came across to the viewer as simply not caring at all. Call for the ceasefire. Stop the bloodshed completely while civilians move. But no, Dave was all about minimising it rather than preventing it. Very much an, oh well, I asked nicely, they didn't listen, nothing I could do attitude, sorry, can't do more than this. I've got my career advancement to think about. Netanyahu has said there will be an invasion soon. Well, how about not accepting that and say, forget it. If you do that, there will be sanctions. Act like a Foreign Secretary in waiting. Say we won't allow it. Of course, Starmer would no doubt sack you if you did that. It'd be something to wear with a badge of honour, of course, doing the right thing, and Starmer would look more of an Israeli shill than ever. But you'd win brownie points with the electorate. No. Dave's job and no doubt Dave's future Israel lobby donations mean more to him than doing the right thing does. Lammy was also interviewed on Sky by Trevor Phillips. That was another revealing exchange. David Lammy told Phillips that Palestinians must have access to water, medicines, food and electricity. So Phillips put to him that Israelis have turned out the lights. They're not supplying the water. The implication of that, based on what you've just said, is that the Israelis are wrong to do that. Just say yes, Dave. Nice, easy question to answer. You left that hanging based on what you've already said, so it's obvious. Yes or no. So, of course, Lamy didn't do that. Instead, he contradicted himself within moments by saying, I'm not going to sit here as an armchair general or lawyer attempting to make assessments when I'm not on the ground, and this is an operational situation. Yes or no, Dave? Are you with Israel, complicit in allowing them to commit war crimes by turning off water and electricity and food to civilians, or are you an actual human being and against that? Well, it seems he couldn't decide. We need a foreign secretary with courage to face down such things. Instead, in Lamy, we have one in the making that will only put himself first. My God, how is it possible that Labour can actually have a worse foreign secretary candidate than the one the Tories already have in post? The Tories have James Cleverly, for heaven's sake, a man that makes a marble look sharp. Here's a thought. If we were talking about Ukraine, I bet he'd be singing a different tune, wouldn't he? Russia bad, Putin bad, easy to pick a side there, isn't it? A whole lot of difference when the interested, connected parties to the aggressors also happen to be amongst your funders, though, eh? Lamy is a coward, an arm-waving, angry, out-of-his-depth grifter who puts self-advancement above doing the right thing. Political lightweights like him we don't need. He's been on the gravy train for far too long, and we need change. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily, and do leave a comment below and have your say on this. Be part of the conversation. What is your opinion on Lamy? Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Lamy had another epic foot-in-mouth moment when, back in May, he basically confirmed that Labour wouldn't be repealing any Tory legislation. Not that that's really news anymore at this point in time, but because they absolutely aren't. But confirming all the way back then that by voting for Starmer's Labour you were going to be getting more Tory, well, perhaps more people should have been taking note back then. And I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.